So you've been considering getting a job in bartending because it sounds super cool and I bet you probably make a lot of money. So you've done some research online and you're getting contrary information, and getting started is a little bit daunting and confusing. Really glad you found this video. Let's go ahead and get you a bartending job, shall we? Getting your first bartending job could feel pretty intimidating. Where do you start? How does the process look? What should you expect? And what are you signing up for? That's the reality of not knowing where to start. And in this series, because we're going to do a couple different videos here, we're going to get you a bartending job from zero all the way to your very first shift. So in this video, we are going to give you the very basics of getting started, finding that first bartending job. And we're going to have 4 key areas that we're going to kind of walk you through. The first is outlining the different types of bartending jobs out there. Next, we're going to talk about some of the education that you may want to start learning about before you have your very first shift. And next, we're going to talk about the resume, getting that resume dialed to hand off for your first interview. Now, we have saved the best for last. We're going to go over a lot of the most frequently asked questions that I've received over the 30 years in this space. So there's a lot of information to cover, so let's go ahead and get started. When I first started tending bar, I didn't know there were different styles of bartending out there. I just assumed that a bartender was a bartender. But after working in the space for a while, I started seeing that no, there are actually different types of tending bar. And I bring them into 3 logical buckets based off of the volume or the amount of people that you're going to serve and the demands of the job itself. So the very first kind of level of bartending is very, very limited as far as the volume and the education that you need. So some common places where you're going to work in this area, and this is a very broad generalization, so I'm sure I'm going to hear about it in the comments below, but places like country clubs, golf courses, and catering jobs. So here you're going to be serving a lot of beer and wine, maybe some simple cocktails like a vodka tonic, rum and coke, things like that, simple 2-part cocktails. You're not going to have a lot of fancy ones. You may have the occasional old fashioned or Manhattan or martini, but you're not going to need a lot of education in order to get this style of bartending done. So that is bucket number 1. Bucket number 2 is kind of that middle area, and I would probably classify maybe neighborhood bars, restaurant bars, and maybe even chain restaurants in this bucket. Here, you're going to be serving just about everything. You're going to have beer, you're going to have wine, you're going to have simple 2-part cocktails like the rum and coke we talked about, and you may even have a dedicated cocktail menu. So the level of sophistication of this type of job is considerably more than that first entry point that we talked about in bucket number 1. But here you're going to be potentially pretty busy. You're occasionally going to be in the weeds is what we call it, and when you're really busy and starting to fall behind the workflow. But it's a great experience. You're going to learn a lot here, and you're going to learn a lot about the mechanics, the physical elements of tending bar as well as some of the product stuff. Also, this is going to be a little bit more challenging of a job to get. It's not unthinkable, but most likely you're going to start off as a barback or waiter or some other job, then bartender, and work your way into that spot. So that is that middle bucket. And at the top tier is kind of the high volume section. And this is going to be where you either have a lot of education, a lot of experience, or are able to handle a lot of volume coming at you all at once. So some classic examples of this are high-end bars and restaurants, dedicated like high-end cocktail places, or music venues and nightclubs, where there is a lot of pressure happening all at the same time, a lot of volume, or a lot of steps that go into preparing every single cocktail. So that is kind of the high volume section. And if you are aiming for a job here, it's going to be a much more challenging than the first 2 buckets that we talked about, just because experience really helps here. The mechanics of tending bar are really, really helpful, as well as potentially a greater deal of education in the world of spirits and cocktails. So those are the 3 main styles of tending bar. And it's going to be really helpful as we talk about some things later on in this video. Now, how do you prepare for that very first bartending job? Do you need a lot of education in the space? And the reality is, no, you don't. You don't need basically any education to get into the world of bartending. But just like any job, the more you know and the more education you have, the easier it's going to be in your interview and most likely during the actual job itself. Now, there's not a lot that you need to study. There's no books that I would recommend like really diving into. You can, by all means, but for the most part, your education is going to be based around familiarizing yourself in the world of alcohol and how to think about alcohol just in general. So an example of this would be to understand what are the main differentiators between beer, wine, and distilled spirits. That's pretty baseline. You should know this information and do a little bit of research on it. Next is going to be a little bit deeper dive. So when we talk about the world of spirits, generally we have base spirits, which are like vodka, gin, rum, tequila, whiskey, and brandy. Those are the 6 most common base spirits. And then you have liqueurs, or sweetened base spirits with more flavors added into them as well. And there's a lot of other subcategories in there, but understanding the different flavor profiles that each of the base spirits represents is really, really helpful. And the most helpful thing is to actually start understanding who are the biggest producers inside of that space. So for example, Bacardi is a very big producer in the world of rum. Captain Morgan is as well. Tito's is a very big player in the world of vodka. And this is going to be important when people start ordering from you. You know what to get and what to grab and what they're actually asking for. So that is kind of how I would approach that education. General understanding of base spirits, what makes them different, and who are the big producers inside of that space. And a great way to do this is you can do online research for sure, but also going to a local bottle shop or even a grocery store that sells alcohol and just planning yourself in front of each section and looking through the labels for common names that you probably have heard of in the past. Next is probably beer education. So start off in major categories like the difference between a lager and an ale. And then what are the different types of ales inside of that world, like pale ales, IPAs, red ales, brown ales, all that stuff. Same thing in the world of lagers. What makes them different from a taste profile? And then who are the major players? Like the world of, Corona is a very big beer as a lager. And Sierra Nevada is a really big ale producer. And start to understand that because once again, people are going to order it and you want to familiarize yourself with what they're actually asking you to make them. With the world of wine, it's a little bit different. Know the main categories, white, red, and sparkling. Know that white and sparkling are both going to be in the freezer. So when you go look for them, or fridge, you're going to look in the fridge. And then red is most likely going to be served room temperature, probably on the counter somewhere. And then you can learn about the major varietals, but honestly, you're probably going to get that education when you first land in a job. So I wouldn't pay a lot of attention into that. And then start learning basic cocktails, the most standard cocktails that you'd make. Old fashioned, margarita, daiquiri, cosmopolitan. It's a bit dated, but it's still relevant. Espresso martini, the most common cocktails out there right now. Brush up on it, know what goes into it, practice them, taste them, so you can talk about them. So that is basically all the education that you should be preparing for when you go to look for a job in a tending bar. Learning about the world of spirits and alcohol and cocktails can also happen at the very same time that you are preparing your resume. So preparing your very first resume for hospitality can be a little bit daunting, but honestly, it should be pretty easy these days. So I would go on to Google and type up resume format, find something that fits your style, something clean, easy to read, and has all the pertinent information on it, and basically just plug and play your information utilizing AI. Honestly, ChatGPT is going to walk you through this, and it's going to be really easy to make a decent resume. Now, as a hiring manager, there were 4 key pieces of information I always look for any resume that came across as a consideration. First and foremost, and I cannot stress this enough because I've run into this, have your contact information on the resume, your name, how to contact you, your number, your address. I'm probably not going to mail you anything, but there may be follow-up information I need to give you, email addresses. And not only that, make sure that they are ways to communicate that you're actually going to pay attention to. Because if I text you or I call you and you don't pick up your phone, I'm probably going to leave a message and then go on to the next candidate. So just make sure that you have contact information that you're actually going to pay attention to on the actual resume. Next up, any relevant experience that you have in the past, either work experience or life experience. So if you've worked in customer service, put it on the resume. If you have done anything in the world of coffee or coffee preparation, Starbucks, put it on the resume. If you have never worked anywhere in your entire life, but you do have some maybe experience in athletics or in some form of club in high school or college, or anything that you think would be really helpful that I know that kind of comes across that you've worked with people in kind of a stressful environment, that is also relevant information to put on a resume as well. So the other thing that I would look for is kind of that purpose. Why are you entering the world of hospitality? What are you bringing to the table? What do you think that you can offer into that top section, that introduction section? I will definitely read that, and it's information that I think ChatGPT will 100% walk you through how to do that. And finally, references. Now, references don't come in handy until later on in the interview process. Like if I've interviewed you and I think you're a good candidate and I want to get one more kind of solid feel for who you are as a person, I'll call one of your references. Most people don't, but for me, it was always more of kind of a character conversation. Can you be trusted? Are you going to be dependable? That kind of scenario. And a reference is a really good tool to have for that. So once you have all 4 pieces of your resume put together, now comes the next part, and that is how to actually send it off. And this is more of like probably a tip or maybe a frequently asked question of how to actually go about applying for this, but it's really easy. You're gonna print out a bunch of these resumes and you're gonna physically hand them to hopefully the hiring manager. Ask for that person when you walk in the door. Now, here is a critical tip when you are applying for any job in the world of hospitality. Get the manager's name. If you meet them, record their name to your memory, and the second you walk out that door, make sure to write their name down. This is really important because if you don't get a phone call in the next week, you should follow up. Show some initiative, call that place back and say, hey, my name is Chris. I dropped off a resume last week and I talked to Tom, the hiring manager, and I'd love to follow up. And then when he comes on the phone or they come on the phone, be like, ask them again, like, hey, have you had a chance to review my resume? And are you actively looking for a bartender? You'd be surprised what happens in the world of hospitality. Some people get fired. Some people don't show up for the 3rd time that week. And honestly, I've gotten callbacks because of that exact scenario. So following up is really, really critical. And it shows that you are showing some initiative as well. So always hand them off in person. Should you drop something online? No. Never email a resume unless they ask you to. And make sure that it stands out in the subject line that if they did ask you to do that, it is going to get buried. There are so many emails that managers sift through on a day-to-day basis, and email is probably the lowest on the priority of most managers' day-to-day operations, so it will get lost. If you can hand it in physically, that is the best option. Now, if you go through Indeed or something like that, that's a different story, but for the most part, you're gonna want to drop one off in person. Now, here's another tip for you. Bring a pen with you because most likely they're going to have you fill out a resume as well or fill out an online form as well. So having a pen, you can record the manager's name, follow up, and potentially fill out a resume or application while you're there as well. So this is going to be a series, and the next video in the series is going to be how to prepare for that initial interview with some tips and tricks. So definitely stay tuned for that video. Now, if you do end up getting a job after watching one of these videos, do me a favor, just leave a comment down below. And the only thing you need to put in there is a $sign. And that shows us that, yes, I watched this video and I did get a job as a result of it. And that would mean the world to me. I read every single comment and it would make me really, really grateful to see everybody getting jobs in hospitality as a result of some of this. But this is, like I said, a series, and we're gonna have a video on how to prepare for your very first interview with some tips and tricks next. So this brings me to the 4th kind of section, and that is the FAQs, the frequently asked questions. And the very first question I get asked all the time, and it is, should I go to bartending school? And the answer to that is kind of depends. When I first started attending bar many years ago, it was actually frowned upon. You did not want to put that on your resume. And I think the reasoning is that many people went to bartending school, went there for a week or 2, felt really great about their performance when they were at that school, think they knew how to tend bar, applied, and then the very first day they realized they didn't know anything about bartending, but they were very cocky and overconfident. So I think that is one of the reasons why employers don't really look positively on bar schools. Now, I think a lot of that has changed. I've heard that there are some really great bartending schools out there now, and they even help with job placement and training, much deeper level than I experienced. So my advice is do your research, find reviews online, and honestly, go to your local bars and ask the bartenders what they think. They're gonna have a much better perspective on it and much more relevant experience with it than anything you can find online for sure. So The next question I usually get is, do you need any kind of special certificate or license in order to become a bartender? And most likely, yeah, you probably will. And it's not really that hard. It's not intense, and there's not a lot of studying that needs to go into it. It's going to be something like ServeSafe or tips, and it's basically understanding the responsibility that you have as someone who is serving alcohol to the public. How do you recognize intoxication? When do you cut people off? Those kind of things. And it will take you a couple hours, and oftentimes the employer will pay for it. So if you go into a job and they ask you if you have one of these certifications, if you say no, it's not going to dismiss you from being hired. Now, should you get this license before you apply? I don't think so. You don't need to. There's no sense in going through all that process if you don't need it, or if for some reason they'll pay for it. So you don't need that certification until you start tending bar professionally. You probably will. Next is, how much money can I possibly make tending bar? That's why we're all here. And this is where that conversation we had earlier about the different buckets of bartending really come into play. So volume usually equals money. So the lower volume, the lower experience, the lower demand that is put on you as a bartender, you're probably not going to be making nearly as much money. In those roles, you may be working multiple jobs, or inside of that restaurant or venue, you may be also a waiter. So there is a possibility of making more money, but most likely this is either going to be a hobby or a side hustle or a experience builder. You're not going to be paying rent from that one particular job. Exceptions are the case, but for the most part, don't expect to be making a ton of money in those roles. The mid tier, kind of that neighborhood bar, restaurant bar, or chain restaurant bar, 100% you can definitely pay your bills and rent in working those jobs. You can make decent money and you can be there a long time, and it could be good money. And the real money happens when you go into the higher volume, the nightclubs, the craft cocktail bars, the really nice fine dining restaurants. There is a combination of volume and high ticket price, and that usually results in higher tips. And tips is where you're gonna make all of your money. So there, in those levels, you could probably make over 6 figures. It was not unheard of when I was tending bar 15 years ago for really skilled bartenders in those spaces to be making over $100,000. Now, I imagine that's probably even more possible, but there is definitely a possibility of making a considerable amount of money in those areas, and you're gonna be working a lot for those types of bars, and really hard to get to. So yeah, those are the most frequently asked questions that I get. And one other one that I get is, should I become a bartender? You know, I'm kind of on the fence, and my recommendation is, heck yeah, man. It is such a fun job. You can make so much money. You could really get a understanding of people to a whole nother level. And I love tending bar. Some of my favorite memories were a result of bartending. Actually, this company was a result of my experience tending bar. So you never know what's going to come out of it. It is a ton of fun. And if you're somebody that thrives in kind of new experiences or being thrown in a chaotic environment and really being able to thrive, this is an incredible job. And I highly recommend it to anybody that is interested in it. And I think one of the other last ones that I get is there any bartending jobs out there right now? And in the 30 years that I've been in this industry, there has always been a need from a hiring perspective for more passionate people in the world of hospitality. And I don't think that's going to go anywhere. I really do feel like there's always going to be this person-to-person connection that is really, really incredible that you can find at bars. So there's always going to be a demand for bartenders, in my opinion. So yeah, now's a good time. You should definitely do it. And once again, if you get a job, put it in the comments below with that $sign, and we are going to be so happy for you. So this is the first part of the series. We're having some more videos around the subject in the future. So hit that like, subscribe, and the bell icon, and it'll pop up whenever we do publish those videos. So until then, cheers, good luck, and don't worry, you're going to get a job in hospitality.